Buckle up, excellence junkies, because this podcast is definitely for you. Welcome to Rockafuel. Do you wish that you could surround yourself with people that love to kick ass just like you? Well, come to my party, baby, and meet some of the brightest stars in the entrepreneurial galaxy, because it is my mission to give these entrepreneurs a platform to declare what they are on this planet to accomplish and to show you why they are rocket fuel. And we're live! Oh, guys, man, we have an episode for you today, because if you are an entrepreneur that has experienced that ebb and flow of like, woo, sales, oh, where's my next prospect? Woo, sales, oh, where's my next prospect, right? Then today I have the honor of introducing you to one of two of my partner coaches. I am divulging that from the beginning. I love you guys, just brilliant from a sales perspective, but they have refined a way to create a consistent flow of prospects for me, and it's been transformational for my business and for so many other people. So I introduce you to Sean Malone, co-founder of Flowchat and so many other things. Woo! Round of applause.
Wanda, thank you so much. Like, that intro is fire. I love the little icon and everything. And I'm just I'm a really huge believer in your movement and what you're doing. And so you here listening to this, like, pay attention. Wanda's got some great stuff to say. So obviously the guests are kick-ass as well. So thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, and my mission is to really highlight folks that are truly rocket fuel for their clients. And there's no question that you are. So tell me a little bit, obviously we introed talking about sales. So I hope that anybody is like, who's thinking like, yeah, I need consistency in my pipeline. Perk up your ears.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll kind of start back in the beginning of my sales career, because I mean, like, sales is a thing. Everybody is in sales. If you're an entrepreneur, whether you're small business, medium-sized business, or big business, like, sales is a thing, and everybody has to learn it, or at least do it, or have a finger in it. And so first and foremost, just knowing that you have to get into that place. I think we could go all the way back to the beginning of our childhoods when our parents are saying, hey, don't talk to strangers. When you remember that, Wanda, your parents were like, don't talk to strangers. And then what happens is, as we grow up and we move into business, we move into entrepreneurship, guess what we have to do? Talk to strangers. So that becomes really, really awkward. And there's all those records that were stored in your mind. Regardless of that, let me share my story real quick. So 21 years ago, I came out of college and I only had one question on my mind. And that question was like, hey, how do I make a boatload of cash? That's what I wanted to do. And so I was like, what do I do? I asked the person that I thought was the most, like, the person that had most success in my world at the time, because I didn't know very many entrepreneurs, was my dad. So I was like, Dad, I want to make a boatload of money. How do I do it? And he goes, well, you got a choice. I was like, what is this choice? He goes, well, number one, are you a CEO? And I'm 21 at the time. And I thought to myself, I don't even know what those initials mean. So no, I'm not a CEO, right? Secondly, he says, are you an entertainer? And I go, nope, can't sing or dance. That's not me either. And he goes, well, you better learn sales. And so that was my experience of, like, how he just said, listen, like, if you're going to do the thing, you got to be in sales. And so I said, okay, great. So then I started going to these career fairs, and I landed myself as a job as a manufacturer's rep. So I was selling commodities. For example, like the iPhone case, I would sell the actual case, the electronic circuit board inside, maybe the wire assemblies and all that stuff, the commodity size stuff that would be put into wherever, right? And then manufactured and sold. And so when I first started selling, I sucked. I was the worst sales guy ever of all times. And so
which is unimaginable.
Right. Well, but it should give you hope as you're listening to this, because repetition makes permanent. That's what I say. Practice makes perfect. Repetition makes permanent. We want to permanently be good at communication, and that's the idea. And so as I came out of college, I thought, okay, I got this manufacturing sales job, and I was, like I said, I sucked. For my first 6 weeks, I'd open this big book, and I'd go through, and I'd have to dial 80 people a day. And I would be like, boom, hang up. I was just ramming calls. So after 6 weeks, I had taken 2,400 attempts of me picking up the phone and calling a business to set an appointment. I booked 0.
Ow.
right? And I'm at this place where I'm like, man, I hate this sales thing. I'm going to throw in the towel. Like, I don't want to do it. Yeah. And so I call my dad. I'm like, I want to quit. My boss is going to fire me. What should I do? And he says, no. Go to the library and read a book. I was like, oh, enlightenment. So I go to the library and I found the sales section. I was like, I didn't even know there was a sales section in the library. And I opened a book from Tom Hopkins, How to Master Selling Stuff book. And I'm like, oh, great. Here's a book. And then I realized that moment, I was like, oh, there's a science behind this. Like you can actually put a system in place and let it rip for you. And I was like, that made sense to me. Right. And so I took this book, I rented it out. I went home and I read over it a million times. And there was one little line in there that I was like, if I remember this and I say it in my conversation, it's probably going to set an appointment. And so I got in my next appointment. I picked up my phone and I got to the place where I'm supposed to say this line. And guess what happened? I totally messed it up. I butchered it. Like the sweat beads are coming down, the neck standing hair on my neck standing up, and I'm like trying to say the thing. I freeze, and the guy on the other end was cool though. He said, "No, Sean, come on over like Tuesday at 9. You'll be fine." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just set an appointment." And that moment in life really dictated the vocation. So like that's what I committed to is like I'm committed to communication through the channel of now I'm going to go master this thing called sales and prospecting. And so that kicked off my journey of let's go build an actual system that's going to work for me first. And so I spent $500,000 going and hiring a coach, reading a book, going to seminars, like over a course of a period of years. And I got pretty good at it. I put some systems in place for myself. And then my business started to do really well. And it went on multiple times over and over and over until I entered the online space, which about 5.5 years ago. And I had gotten good at sales and had some big results. I mean, I've taken multiple companies into the 8 figures for myself, and I've done it for clients, like over about a handful of clients to the 8 figures, probably dozens to the 7s. But we were online and I didn't know this marketing thing at all. I just knew sales. And so when we get in an online space, it was like, there's a little guy, he's walking along the beach with no shirt on. He's like, I just made all this money online. I was like, I want to do that. So what do? We bought into his program. We went through Facebook ad and eventually got on a call. We got sold into this thing and upsell all the way to the end. And I was like, wow, I didn't really like the experience of marketing, but if marketing can bring me eyeballs, guess what? I probably can convert them because I'm okay at sales because I had systems. And I was like, oh man. And so as soon as I started working, now it took us a long time. That's what I want to dig into today, but of how we got there. But when we got there, it was so explosive. And what I mean by that is we're able to build just in that one company. We built this. It was an actual network marketing company. We became some of the biggest distributors before leaving. And we built a downline of 2,500 people that had all invested over 10,000 with us. And so we made some money there. And then we built this huge tribe. And they came back to us and they're like, Sean, you need software because your software sucks. We didn't build it. It was the other guy. So anyway, long story short, we ended up building a software company for that. It was a whole nother thing that we went down the pathway, but kind of brings us to this place where it's like, let's talk about sales. Because I think that's probably the most important thing that we can talk about today. We have our own high ticket sales agency because we had a lot of entrepreneurs coming to us saying this, Sean, I don't want to sell. Right? What do you do Wanda, when somebody says, hey, I don't want to sell? I mean, it's a hard thing to talk about. What would you say to them?
I don't know. I feel you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but it's truth, right? Like, because everyone's like, I just want to run the business, or I want to go into my zone of genius. I want to do this. I want to do that. And that's fine. And you can be there and you should be there. But just remember, you have to dip your toe into the sales water in order for it to work. And so what we started doing was we started actually building up these people, these entrepreneurs who come to us and they say, Sean, I don't want to sell. Okay, great. Here's how to hire on board and train a sales team. And that's what we did with our high ticket agency. Showed them how to build a sales team. And then after we had put it in place and we started to see revenue growth, the entrepreneurs were still frustrated. And then they started losing sleep. And they come back to us and they're like, Sean, I love the sales team that y'all just built for me, but now I can't go to sleep at night because I don't have a way of predictably and consistently driving opportunity onto that sales team.
Yeah.
And that's where they were stuck. And I was like, oh, well, we have systems for that. Like, here, try the systems.
So I just want to, I mean, like, this is awesome, right? I want to point out for people listening. I mean, if you didn't catch the message already, the consistent message is systems, right? So I think that's something that, as entrepreneurs, I don't know, it might not be like a very sexy word, but it truly is freedom once you are able to understand what you can do consistently and you can teach other people to do it, right? And so I want to point out that message that consistently across all of your successes was developing systems to enable you to scale. But I kind of want to go back to that feeling of like not only not wanting to get into the sales conversation, because I feel like that's a completely different thing. But let's say you are actually pretty confident in closing,
Mhm.
but it's just getting that constant flow. And like, why does that happen to us? Like, what? Because if we're able to be successful doing it a couple times, and then we stop, like, well, why do we do that? And
Well,
I ask you as the
yeah,
philosopher, because
great, great
you
question.
interact with so many entrepreneurs. So what do you think is like a consistent thing that happens to us as entrepreneurs?
Boredom. It's the number one reason why all entrepreneurs stop prospecting. Let me give you a couple of examples to make sure that you
Mm.
understand this. Okay. So, let's say, for example, you get into the sales game and you start doing some deals and you're closing deals and you're doing good, right?
Mhm.
Well, then there's this energy that you have to consistently put out and continue doing over and over and over and again. And sometimes, if you don't like sales or you don't even like talking with people, that becomes very draining and it becomes taxing. And then sometimes you go to a bad place mentally. But if you have a system in place, you can prevent that. Likewise, that's with the sales side. But let's talk
Mm.
about prospecting for a second, because it's a
Yeah.
whole another game. See, people come to me all the time and say, Sean, I want to learn to be a killer high ticket sales guy. I'm like, great, I can teach you that in a weekend. But my
Mhm.
bigger question is what's the system you have in front of that that's consistently feeding you opportunity? Because if you
Mhm.
don't have a system in front of the machine that's generating revenue, it's not going to work, right? You could be the baddest ninja on the block, but if you don't go test your ninja abilities against other people, you're not going to be really sure. And so that's
Yeah.
where what we call imposter syndrome sneaks up, right? But there's a lot of things that come out of this. And so I think what here, let's talk about boredom for a second.
Mhm.
I define boredom as something that's in a business, right? Because if we can agree, there's 5 functions of any business. So you got lead generation, you've
Mhm.
got lead nurture, where you got to talk to those people you just generated. You got
Mhm.
conversion, which is the sales function. Then you've got the fulfillment, where you have to do the delivery work, and then you have retention and resell. And so if we can agree that those are the 5 buckets, let's start at the first one, lead generation. Like, how do people generate leads? Well, lead generation is what I consider very high value. Can't argue that. Every business leads, but it's low skill, right? And so what happens is
Mm.
when you're doing a high value thing and it's low skill and you do it over and over and over, you're like, this is so mundane. I don't need to be doing it. I'm bored. I'm going to stop doing it. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, yes. 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 Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
it's exciting to figure out like the system, and then when you actually have to execute it over and over again, as I mean, most entrepreneurs are like the visionary, creative, like we want to kind of get to the next thing. So yeah, it makes sense. Then
Yeah.
you're doing this over and over again, and you just lose your interest in doing it. I mean, I guess it makes sense to maybe bring in people, obviously not maybe, to definitely bring in people to do it. But if I didn't actually document it well or whatever, then that's not going to be very helpful
Yeah,
either.
one of my coaches, Chris Williams, says it best. There's people, right? There's people in a business. There's process, which is systems, and then there's product, the P's,
Yep.
right? The 3 P's. And so once you've got a product that's proven product and a proven path, meaning you've sold at least one of them, then we have to look at people and process, right? And so
Mhm.
if you're the people, if you're the person doing the work, this is where I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck. Is I got to wear every hat in my business. And
Mhm.
so they'll
Mhm.
be generating the lead, they'll be speaking with them, getting onto a call, they'll be doing the sales work, closing the deal, and then they take them back and they got to do the fulfillment side and deliver whatever product or service they're selling. And most entrepreneurs say, that's why I don't want to be an entrepreneur, because I have to wear all these hats. I'm going to work like millions of hours. That's if you're a solopreneur and you like that kind of grind, then there's a place for that. But what I would suggest is, again, high value, low skill. The secret, and whenever you have a high value, low skill in your business, is figure out how to put a system around that, and then outsource
Mm.
outsource the labor.
Yeah. So, okay, I know we're going to get deeper into this,
Sure.
but everybody knows in our episodes, I do not, if you're the right person, I don't want you to be inspired and then fall off the cliff. Like you need to do something about it, right?
Right.
So, we've been talking about systems and you've been talking about like sharing this with somebody and like Sean just dropped us like a major value bomb. Okay. So if you are that entrepreneur, okay, listening, where you have experienced that up and down, you just connected to this message like, holy crap. Yes, I have been bored. And this is why I'm not doing it a lot. I need somebody else to start doing this. Sean, you've put together this amazing, you actually shared this system that was the foundation of this software that you have created. We're going to get into the software. Okay. But this is the most valuable value bomb that we have had ever on one of these episodes. Okay.
Oh,
If you
wow.
text flow, no, because this isn't only content, guys. This is how to connect with your perfect clients at less than an afternoon, but it is not only packed with inspiration and information. He actually is giving you the system that they first utilized using Google Sheets and Google Docs to perfect what is now the Flowchat software. Okay, I'm super excited because, by the way, I already said, like, I'm a client. I'm a flag waving Sean and Chris, founders of Flowchart, a Flowchat. Pardon, but this is what you need to do. You need to pull out your phone and text Flow. FLOW to 411321 if you're in the US, and you are going to immediately receive this guide, which also includes links to download the system that they use. And I want to point out that we used this system before going over to the software. It works. Okay. So you need to text flow to 411321. You're going to receive this guide and those extra resources. If you are outside of the US, I love you. I'm not going to leave you out. You're going to text +1 909 741 1321. The message is flow. In both of those cases, remember to provide your email address immediately. Bam, you're going to get this in your email inbox. If we don't ask you for your email, that means good for you. You have texted a catchword before. We know who you are. It's already in your email inbox. So while I am showing this, for those of you watching, if you're just listening to the podcast, check it out in the show notes. It's all there. I'm telling you, super duper value bomb, and you're going to get a peek into the mastermind that is Flowchat. So we're talking about like training other people.
Yeah, I just want to dive back into something you said I think was so valuable. By the way, I just text Flow now to make sure that everything is working, and within about less than like 3 seconds, I got a response. So text Flow to 411321 right now. If you haven't done that already, that's going to be valuable. I promise it will be valuable. Now let's talk about the ups and downs. Wanda skimmed over this thing called the ups and downs. Every entrepreneur that gets into business does this thing called a cycle. Right? Whatever they're currently using to create opportunity and have conversations, it's either up or down, right? If you're just selling stuff, if you're not actively selling, when you're actively selling, you'll be at the top. When you stop selling, you're going to come down to the bottom, right? So it's ups and down. If you're doing a challenge, let's talk about running challenges. I've spent lots of monies with coaches to do challenges. We dialed them all in correctly. We spent tens of thousands on ads. And it's like this, whoop, boom, you hit a challenge. You get a bunch of people on the back end, and then it's deflating because you just follow up with all the people that were in the challenge. And then it's like, oh man, I need another surge, right? That's going back up. And so you have to, what do? Another challenge. And then you get into this cyclical flow of throw a challenge and then follow up and then throw another challenge. And so your business starts doing this over and over. Well, you could do the same thing with summits. We did one of the biggest summits in the online space about a year ago. We had Russell Brunson as a headliner, along with like every single other person you can think of that's a big time digital marketer. Same thing, big influx, and then down to the bottom. And so challenges are a great tool to do that with. But again, if you're going to get stuck in that ebb and flow, you better have systems around everything in your business so that you can spend the time to do that. That's the other problem. We could talk about Facebook ads. Let's talk about Google ads. Let's talk about paid media, because paid media is the next thing. Like if you want to do paid media, that's great. But here's a couple of things you got to remember. Number one, if you've never done it before, you got to learn a new language. It's like learning Spanish, right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to know demographics, psychographics, how to click the buttons, where to go through in the ads manager and do all that stuff. Look, it took us 6 months to figure that out. But once we figured it out, then we knew the language, so we could either do it for ourselves or manage an agency. But now we had to create a bunch of creative that was going to convert or not, which is time. Most entrepreneurs don't have that much time. And so we need to figure out a way to collapse timeframes. The answer to collapsing timeframes comes with connection, because more connection equals more conversion, right? More conversations with people will turn into more sales for a business.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. What do you mean by connection? Because it's true. I mean, we're from a traffic perspective, we get driven with this mindset of like quantity, like, yeah, let's get a whole bunch. And then also, by the way, managing people high quantity and then nothing, and high quantity, it's not a fun game to deal with at all. And there's a lot of anxiety, because it's like, what if this challenge doesn't work? What if this summit doesn't work as well as the last one, and such? And so what you're saying is that it's like slow your roll, but create these connections and relationships. But how do I do that like efficiently? It seems like ain't nobody got time for that.
Right. Again, remember we said high value, low skill, right? Like, so it doesn't take a lot of skill to do the work, right? Except if you're running a challenge. Let's talk about our Challenger Summit. You got to put time in, interview speakers. You got to do all the mechanics, the tech work. Like there's a lot of tech skill that's needed there. And let's talk about the other ways. So we were talking about paid media for a second. You could put an ad out there. Then people will click and they'll kind of come your way. Inbound marketing is what they call it. But it's not 100% reliable. And so when we tested a bunch of these different methods, and the test was, let's take 5 of the most common. I forgot the other one, which is just organic posting. So you go to a Facebook group and you put a post. Hey, is it your birthday today? Somebody says yes. Great. Now you're in a conversation. And then you get into a sales conversation, and then that deal doesn't go through because they're not a good fit. Right. So that was the other method that we tested. We tested organic, where we did posting like that. We tested challenges. We tested summits. We tested paid ads. And then we tested the system that I built about 21 years ago that I just started in my whole journey, which is it's so simple, but people forget to do it because, again, it's high value, low skill, and it's just outreach. Direct outreach. And here's the statistics that will back up everything, right? We got into this place and we figured out there was this problem. Here's the numbers. 83% of small to middle-sized businesses sell in Messenger, okay? Sell by chat, right? 83%. That's a big number.
Yeah.
Okay, so now remembering that data, that number, 83.
Although some people may be like, yeah, I know, because I'm getting those messages from the 83.
Sure. And that's a true statement. But the fact is, we said, okay, great. If it's 83%, there's got to be some sort of a company out there that has a tool that manages all of this. And we looked. Right. We went to Pipedrive, went to HubSpot, Salesforce, like Close.io. We went to every single CRM that we could think of and bought the thing and clicked all the buttons. And what we found was amazing automations, amazing management of clientele, but there was no messenger communication in any of these CRMs. And so we thought, man, what else is there? And we started looking and we found a few extensions out there that are okay at starting a conversation. Hey, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. And that's an auto-sended message. And then it gets into this conversation. But then the conversation falls flat because the entrepreneur doesn't know what to say. And
what do you say next? So yeah, I need to pause and dig deeper into this, because this is important in the sense that, sure, I made the joke, many of us may have been aware of it because we are the recipients of some of these messages, right? But many of us are also the recipients of the message that are like, hey, howdy, how you doing? What's up? How's your business? But like, it's like, what are you doing? Right. So as with any tool, first of all, good strategy is critical, and then good maintenance of that. And that was the thing that I want to pause because you are expert in this, but literally for somebody listening, it's like, what do you mean? So I can create a system around reaching out to people and communicating. And what you're talking about is knowing, guess what? The first message is this, and the second message is that. And if they say this, then you do this, and actually thinking about the flow. And what was beautiful is that, I mean, clearly you guys already had experience in building software and logical and process and systems. You've been talking about that, but you're also super genuine, just people as yourselves, and you've also done a lot of work and study on communication and communication styles. So what was beautiful about it is being able to know, to learn, oh, I could create a system around this, but I could also communicate in a way that feels authentic to me, that is connected. Sure. And that was like super, super powerful. So I want to pause on that because I loved the nerdiness of evaluating all those traffic mechanisms, right? Because I'm a nerd, right? But I want to thank you for bringing those two together, from systems and actual like communication, like brilliance around that.
Yeah, and I think, well, you're welcome. First of all, it's my passion, my hobby, my vocation that I'll always be in, and so that's the other thing about it. But I think as we continue to talk about this, one of the things you said is valuable, right? You get into these conversations, and it's howdy, and then it's like, what do you actually say? Like that's the part where entrepreneurs then default to, hey, buy my stuff. And then it's like, oh man, like that hurts. And then all of a sudden you've ruined this prospect forever. They're never going to come back to you because you didn't understand how to date them. Or, in the dating game, right? You're not going to go get married at the first girl you see in a restaurant or the first guy. It's like, no, hey, you're pretty cute. We should go out, hang out over here for next weekend if you're not busy. And then that process starts. And so every business, small or big, has some sort of a flow, right? Some sort of a cycle time of when somebody starts to when they buy. And we just have to think through, what is that flow, put it into a conversation, and then sequence it. And so I think as we kind of come to the end of this this first segment here, I think what's very valuable for everybody to remember is, how does it work? We didn't want to leave you empty-handed. I never do that, right? And so what Wanda said is, again, if you text flow to 411-321, you'll get this thing. And what will happen is, this is the version that we actually spent. We ran, it was a $25,000 mastermind. It was an annual mastermind where somebody would buy into this, and we would teach them in the first 12 weeks. The first month, here's the system, put it in your business. The second month, let's get it to turn over a new client for you, right? Most of our members have their first sale between 4 and 7 weeks into using, well, in our mastermind, at least that way. And then the third month is like, now we've turned a deal over. We know it's high value, low skill. Let's put a system in place. Let's put a virtual inventor on the look for us. And so now we have this thing. And then the rest of the time was, let's manage the sales conversation and figure out all the parts to put in there. And so in that document, what you're going to find is 2 things that are very valuable. Number one, actually 3 things. The first thing is this: what's the action you have to do each and every day to make this happen? It's so simple. It's kind of stupid. Reach out to three people that you believe would be a good fit of your stuff. Reach out to 3 people each and every day. That's it, right? That's 3 times 5 in a week. That's 15 people per week. And if you consistently do this and you have a messaging sequence that follows, you're going to be able to deliver at a very high level, meaning you'll grow your business. And so I've given you kind of a copy of the document and the spreadsheet. So inside of that PDF that you just got to text flow, though. You got to text flow to 41321, and you'll get yourself that thing for free. And then click and read through that. If you have any questions, reach out to Wanda. She can definitely help. So can I.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to be fair, like, this is the step. Once you realize, yes, okay, I know I need to do this. If the idea of communicating to people through chat is intriguing to you, but perhaps you've faltered or you just haven't done it because you want to do it right. Literally, they're providing you with suggested copy for your outreach, right? The flow, how to actually track. Did I do this? Because once you start reaching out to a lot of people, then you start losing it. Okay. This this is a super powerful baseline system. But to be
Mhm.
fair, right, the system worked so well that tell us a little bit more how you're currently serving people as a result of the success of this system that we shared.
Sure. After taking dozens and dozens of businesses through our high ticket mastermind and selling off sheets and docs, we thought to ourselves, like, hey, that's kind of archaic, right? And if we're going to spend
Mhm.
a large amount of cash flow with somebody as a coach, like, what would we want? We would want some sort of unique system that comes along with it. And so that was when we started hunting for all these softwares that I mentioned earlier, but we couldn't find any that managed the selling conversation. So we started, what's different about our software is it manages the selling conversation first. And then we figured out how to get as many leads as you want in an afternoon on the front side of that. And so when you have those two pieces and then you have some sort of system on the back, you can build a business as big as you want to. And so
Wait, so
that's
this is
exactly
a combination. This is a combination of not only this system of how to manage the flow of the conversation,
right.
but you're actually going to help us like get people that we could start the
Sure.
conversation with.
Sure, sure.
What you talking
Imagine being
about,
able, yeah,
Willis?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the secret, right? That's why it's a disruptive technology and it's a disruptive software. And there's like business, it's flying off the shelf right now. And
Mhm,
because we figured out how to manage the conversation. So we took that part out of the equation. And then
mhm,
in the software version of this thing, because we weren't doing it manually, like in that with the document that you got there, you have to go and find 3 people and put them on the spreadsheet. That's the work, right?
mhm,
However, in the software tools, you go to a targeted Facebook group that might have your perfect avatar, and then you can join the group. And in a matter of moments, you can click and grab thousands of those members, put them into this tool, and start a sequenced messaging conversation with them. Yep. And it'll drive it all the way. Imagine a conveyor belt, right? On top of the conveyor belt, there's a couple of columns. Each column is a specific touch point that you want to have with your prospect all the way until they buy something at the end. And so
uh-huh.
if this is the conveyor belt, well, we put a filter on the front side of this. The right people come through this thing, drop onto your conveyor, and then it's your job or your team or your system's job to just kind of push that person all the way through this conveyor until they get to what
Mhm.
we call the action threshold, in which they like you and trust you enough to give you a credit card number, and then you're going to make a deal.
All right. Do you guys have a sense as to why I think these guys are hashtag rocket fuel? I mean, this is like crazy stuff. It's a lot. And I thank you so much, Sean, because we had to just throw a lot of like philosophy, behavior, communication system all in one conversation. But the
Sure.
point is that if you do not have something, some sort of system that is consistently bringing people into your business, then you're just on this like backward downward spiral. Honestly, like you may have had like one crazy successful challenge, and then guess what? You got to do it again and again. And you just need methods to manage this. But I will say that, especially if you're somebody who actually is excited about creating authentic connections, right? I think that's what's really, really important to merge that with your software. So my final question, because we're a couple minutes over, but
Sure.
so I know that you guys created the software, but now what about all of the lovely like brilliance that you guys have in helping people massage their communication and go through that? Like, is there any support
Yeah.
on top of that?
I appreciate you asking. And so we actually have a package right now that includes coaching for 40 weeks. So you actually get a 40-week coaching program
Nice.
along with an annual membership to our software, all in one. So it's irresistible when you put it that way.
Yeah.
Is now each week myself and our CEO Chris will get on the horn and we actually build out those conversational flows for each of our members, and we just put it right into their account. We have ability to click a button and just move it right into your account in an instant. So you'll have the conversation ready to go. And then all that's left is finding the group or, Instagram followers list that you could sell to, put them in the system, and then start running the play. All of a sudden your business is going to explode. But it's not only going to explode because you can get it to explode through a challenge or summit or ads or anything. It's going to continue to explode.
Right.
And that's that consistent bit I always talk about, like predictable and consistent flow of opportunity coming into your world. What is it, right? If you have a system that's doing it, great. If you don't, text Flow to 411-321 right now, because you're going to get that thing, and start using that system. When it gets overwhelming, because it can and it will, we tested that thing to tens of thousands of conversations to the point where it was driving us bonkers. We're like, oh, software would make a lot of sense. And that's what the next step is.
Yeah. And there's a link so that you could see the software, so you could understand. But I think part of the foundation of really appreciating how amazing the software is to see what system looks like, right? And try it out, and then think about doing it on with a large volume, right? So this is really important. So once again, Rocketeers, if you are that entrepreneur, you are looking to develop that consistent flow, right? Because that is freedom. That's freedom.
It is. And when you systemize yourself out, see, most entrepreneurs get to this place where they're like, I can't give that away because then I'll lose control of my company. Well, in actuality, you have to give that away and create white space. Why did you even build a business in the first place? It's not so you could slave for 18 hours a day, is it? Because then that's probably not the best reason to build a business. We build businesses to develop lifestyle. So our lifestyle should be supported by the business we build. It shouldn't be the business is supported by the lifestyle we fit around it. Like, it's the other way, right? And so that's why having a system like this in your business, now you don't have to stress, because you have new opportunity coming into your world each and every day. And then those are all going to convert into deals. And then that way you'll have cash flow. Cash flow can solve a lot of problems. Money does not buy you love, but it sure can solve a lot of problems, right? And so all of a sudden you have cash flow. Guess what? Now you have systems, you have cash flow. You can create the lifestyle that we probably all get into business for in the beginning.
Absolutely. So pull out that phone. Please text FLOW, FLOW, to 411-321 if you are in the US. And of course, internationally, text to +1 909 741 1321, and the catchword is FLOW. Don't forget to provide your email address. That's how you're going to get the goods. Thank you so much, Sean. Any final words? I mean, this is gold.
Yeah, well, no, Wanda, I just, like I said, I'm really grateful for the movement that you've put out there. I think what you do, your service, your software, everything you're doing is just righteous. And so if you've been listening for Wanda for a while, dive in, consume on the phone with her, because she'll be able to in a tremendous way.
Thank you so much. All righty, guys. I hope you, Sean, and my Rocketeers have a rockin' day. Bye now.
Rock on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, every one of our episodes is boosted by a value-packed keyword called a catchword. Yeah. This allows our audiences to text to receive even more value from our guests. So take advantage of that great value. And if you share your expertise by guesting on podcasts or TV or speaking in front of live or digital audiences, then you're leaving anonymous fans behind. So go get a catchword at catchwords.com, KETCH words.com, and use podcast20 as a promo code for 20% off your setup fee. Look, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Rocket Fuel podcast so you never miss your jolt of rocket fuel. Until next time, adios.